Can you tell people who Courtney Leak is and more about your practice and your services?
Yeah, so I'm Courtney Leak. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of North Carolina and South Carolina. I have a private practice in Charlotte, and I guess like a lot of therapists everywhere right now, because everything's virtual, I do speaking engagements, trainings, and I do podcasting. I call myself a wellness curator, like helping people create the wellness journey that they need so that they can feel more healed and whole.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for that. And so today's topic obviously is in relation to women's mental health because it's a women's history month. It's also a social worker awareness month. It's all these different awareness months. And
Right.
so a number one question that I typically get from a lot of the women that I service is like, how do I find balance? I currently work in the substance abuse space, and there is this misconception that women can't recover. And obviously,
Mm,
we know that a lot of times women struggle with getting the help that they need because they are often seen as the helper. They're the nurturer. They're wearing multiple hats. They cook, they clean, they're the ones maintaining the bills and all of that jazz. And so, how do you help clients who are women navigate that space with their mental health?
yeah, that's a great question. So I struggle with the idea of balance because I think sometimes our environment simply isn't balanced. Like I'm a single mom, so my environment isn't balanced. And I encourage people to really focus on not abandoning themselves in the process of doing all the duties that they have to accomplish each day. And that really looks like making sure that I'm carving out something for me all the
Mhm.
time and doing it unapologetically. Because if I waste time feeling guilty about what I'm doing, I'm still not doing something for me.
Yes, love it, love it. Carving out that space. And I know with you on your profile, you mentioned that you love creating safe spaces for individuals and finding that opportunity for them to do that identity work and figure out what works best for them. I too definitely agree. I don't believe there is a such thing as balance. I like to think of
Mm.
like harmony, right? So
Yes.
yeah. So understanding like there's so many different parts of ourselves and we have to figure out how all of those things intersect or how they all work together.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Can I use that too? We're looking for
Yes.
harmony, not balance. Absolutely. Because just sometimes you're the breadwinner. Sometimes your partner's sick. Sometimes, right now we're having to be if you're a parent, you're having to be the teacher and the parent. If you're a parent who's a teacher, you're having to be the teacher and the parent. There's just so many different pools right now that it's going to be unrealistic. We'll do ourselves harm trying to create balance if balance doesn't actually exist. So I love the idea of harmony.
Yes, 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 yes. And even when you're talking about the different pools, right, that process can become overwhelming. Obviously,
Mhm.
as women of color, we deal with a number of things. We're trying to protect ourselves from the patriarchy. We're also trying to protect
Mhm.
ourselves from like the consistent racism that we deal with, the microaggressions, all of those things that threaten us as
Mhm.
women of color. And so, how can women of color specifically protect their well-being overall from a holistic perspective?
Yes, yes. I am really big on finding spaces where you don't have to code switch. So going to spaces where everyone looks like you or people are really supportive of you doing the work you need to do for yourself and not asking or pulling on you. I think that's super important. And I think there's been a long time where that's kind of been the secret desire. And now, again, unapologetically, we're just asking for it. And not even just asking for it, we're just creating it. We're saying
Yeah.
we need BIPOC spaces, we need Black spaces, and we need them without your permission.
Ooh, yes, without your permission,
Hmm.
unapologetically. I,
Yes, yes.
yes. I think this entire month my theme song has been like "Who Run the World, Girls" by Beyonce.
Yes, I love
And
it.
it's just like we run so many different things. Not only do we create worlds, but we reestablish them. We help
Mm,
people maintain their own personal worlds and whatnot. So I think that that's really dope.
absolutely. And I will say a lot of times we're in a professional role where we're a nurturer as well. You and I nurture people all the time, separate of our personal life where people are actually still expecting us to nurture them. And
Mhm.
so if I don't have a space where I can lay bare and I can look at people and they look back at me and say, me too, sis, I get it. It's hard. How can we support you? How can we hold you up? How can we just hold some of the burden even while you cry or have your feelings? Because in some ways you're going to have to button it back up to go back out there into the world. Like if we don't have that, we can't be our whole selves.
Yeah. And I love that approach because I think it challenges us to not only find and create a safe space, but also create spaces in all those different domains. So whether it's creating a safe space for yourself with a colleague at work, or creating a
Mm-hmm.
safe space for you in the home, creating a safe space in your entrepreneurship journey and whatnot, I think all that is important, especially with Black women being high in terms of like minority business owners. Like
Yeah.
that's so important. Finding those safe spaces specifically for us. And if we can't find them, then go ahead and create them.
Absolutely. We need it. Yeah, I have a squad of fellow therapists who just hold me up. Like we don't have to explain a lot. And I think that's how you determine if a space is safe. Am I constantly having to explain myself or justify my existence or apologize for how I'm showing up? That's not a safe space. So safe space is where I can start at help, where I can start at I'm undone. Those are safe spaces, and I'm
Yeah.
so appreciative of my squad for that.
The vulnerability and the transparency piece, just being able
Mm-hmm.
to take off the superwoman cape and saying, yes, I need help. And then,
Yeah.
like you said, in terms of unapologetically asking for it, and also being able to
Mm-hmm.
receive it too. Because I feel like sometimes
Mm.
we struggle with that as well.
Absolutely. That's not necessarily a role that's encouraged for us. I think, especially as women of color, we're not encouraged to be in the role of receiver. And so it can feel really unsafe sometimes, or at least suspicious, and we don't trust it when we're the one receiving. Because are you going to pull the rug out from under me? Is this going to come at a price later on? What's the cost? And so, yes, being in a space where you can give and receive and not question it, that's life changing.
Oh, that is so good. Not questioning it because of past traumas and previous
Mhm.
experiences and whatnot. That is
Absolutely.
yes, 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 yes. And then even then, right, being comfortable with receiving it, I feel like learning to trust other people, but ultimately building that intimacy with self in order for you to trust yourself to trust other people.
Yes, absolutely. There's that deeper inner work that I think we really have to be willing to be courageous enough to dive into. Because how can I show you all of me if I don't know all of me? And a lot of times and a lot of times the parts that I don't know, the parts that I'm ashamed of, the parts that I'm not tapped into, those are the parts that are popping out sideways and causing tension in my relationships. And so I need to get really clear about those parts. And those parts aren't bad, they just feel unsafe for whatever reason. Once I've been able to identify why they feel unsafe, I can speak for them instead of from them, and it doesn't hurt my relationships.
Love it. That guilt and shame is so much for a lot of people, specifically for women, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you happen to be a mom, like wanting to model certain behavior for your kids, wondering whether or not you're a good enough parent, good enough wife, good
Mm-hmm.
enough partner, if you're even doing enough. Can we talk about coping through the guilt and shame aspect of it all?
Oh my gosh, yes. Going to the parent piece, I really think we need to be modeling humanity for our kids because kids do what they see, not what we say. And so we tell them it's okay to make a mistake. Failure is not the end of things, but we hide everything from them but our perfection. So they grow up thinking we were perfect, or at least we weren't congruent with what we were saying, and they're lost. They don't know how to fail because we didn't show them how to fail. They don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to be vulnerable because we didn't show them our vulnerability. Our children aren't going to break if we show them our humanity, as long as we maintain a container. We say, okay, this is what's going on for me. This is not for you to fix. This is not your responsibility. This is just me including you in what's happening in our home so you don't feel crazy when the energy is saying something's happening in our home. But now let me tell you what I'm going to do to take care of me so that they don't then think it's their responsibility to take care of us. So I think we really do our children a disservice when we don't show them our humanity. Children are not these fragile beings. They're actually sponges and they're constantly looking at us, constantly creating a narrative about what we're doing. So if we're not participating in the narrative, they're probably getting it wrong, and they're going to take those messages and move into adulthood without a full picture.
Yes, and a huge part of that is being able to effectively communicate that. And sometimes you may not even have the words to be able to communicate one's experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I think starting small, it doesn't have to be this deep dive, just practicing with people, even saying how you feel, maybe even practicing noticing how you feel in your body. I
Yeah.
know sometimes people get very uncomfortable with expressing their feelings or identifying their feelings. I'm like, go to Google. Google is free 99. Get you a feelings wheel picture off
Yeah.
of there and just start to question, how am I feeling? Because the more clear I can be, the better I can take care of myself. So am I sad? Am I depressed? Am I devastated, or am I disappointed? Those are very, very different experiences. And
Yeah.
if I'm actually disappointed, then I need to take care of myself in that realm, which I'm going to do differently than if I'm devastated.
Yes. I love it. I run a weekly women's group every Monday and Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And we do like a check-in with our feelings words. And normally what I get is happy, blessed, and okay. And I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
know that you're blessed, but how are you feeling? And they're
Right.
like, "Dang," you know?
Right.
And
Right.
so
They
for
were like, I was trying
anybody
to wear
who
the shield.
right, exactly. Like, I know that you're blessed. I know that you're present, but how are you feeling? And so, for anybody who is on this live, I definitely encourage you to follow that insight, to get that nugget. Head over to Google and identify a feelings chart or even a feelings wheel, because when you're able to pinpoint those emotions, that leads to the gateway of like a number of things. It provides so much
Absolutely.
awareness over time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And if you are at the place where you're tapped into what you're feeling, then maybe the next step is to practice communicating what you're feeling. We don't always, the other day, my best friend texted me and she was like, how are you? And don't say fine. Like having those people that you can show up and be like, you know what, I'm exhausted. I'm anxious. Not in a way of take care of me, but just as in a way of this is how I'm presenting, this is what I'm feeling. And as one of my people, I'm just letting you know.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yes. And I think learning how to effectively communicate also trains other people how to receive you as well. Because if
Yeah.
you're constantly showing up as fine, constantly showing up as okay, then they're going to start treating you as such.
Right,
Yeah.
right. There was a meme recently that was like, check on your strong friends so they can go ahead and lie to you and tell you they're okay. We have to stop doing that. Like, as the strong friends, I felt so attacked. And that's how I respond because I feel like I don't want to burden anyone. I don't want to call if everyone's going through a lot. It feels hard to complain, especially in this day and age when so many people are suffering. If you don't feel like you're suffering, it might cause you not to be honest about how you're really feeling. But your
Yeah.
people still want to know, and you still deserve to say the truth.
Yes. I love it. Courtney, you better. Yes. Oh my goodness. Speaking about suffering, we obviously know that this country has just been crazy when it comes to us as a people. And I
Hmm.
find like my black and brown sisters are kind of struggling, right?
Hmm.
Struggling with like the motherhood aspect of like, should I allow my son to be able to walk to the corner store?
Mm.
Let me make sure that they keep their hoodie down, things of
Hmm.
that nature, or concerned about whether or not their husband will return or like their male friends will be profiled and whatnot. And even in the midst of that, there's like this internal battle of like
Hmm.
trying to be there for the male figures in their life, but also tending to their own needs as well. Because
Hmm.
we see like black women happen to be at the forefront of a whole bunch of stuff, but sometimes we
Hmm.
feel as though we're lost in the movement. How do you help
Mm.
clients navigate through that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different pieces. I think first and foremost, just making sure that you're connected with the people in your life, that you're loving on them, that you're pouring into them. When you are a member of a society that the message is you're not safe and we don't care for you, we're not going to protect you, there's just constant anxiety around that. And so making sure that you are actually speaking life into them and over them in whatever way that you do that is so, so important. Letting them know I see you. I don't think there's anything wrong with requiring them to see us back. We are
Mm-hmm.
suffering and scared and struggling as well. And so it's okay to pour in and ask to be poured into. I think if we're not honest about that, then we are going to start creating resentment in spaces that's not fair to be resentful,
Yeah,
because we
definitely.
haven't actually asked for what we need in that space. I also think doing things that just feel connected, me and my son will like box breathe together, or because he's feeling the anxiety, I'm not holding it for him. And
Mm-hmm.
so let's just speak it into it, like just speak into it, be honest about it, and hold space for each other in it. And really
Yeah.
try to encourage each other through that space. And then I think in the movement, really just making sure that our voices include us, and that we are absolutely 100% standing for the Black males that we love, the Black and brown men that we love, and the boys that we love. And also making sure the movement includes us as well, being unapologetic in our need for the movement to include us as we are doing the work. Because we have to be real that that is a way that we function a lot of times, where we function working for everyone else but ourselves. And so this is, again, a part of not self-abandoning. If I'm not asking for myself to be considered in the rights in the movement, then I'm self-abandoning, because my humanity matters too.
Definitely. I love that because it makes sure that like you're still putting yourself in the equation. And I think there's
Right,
this misconception that just because I'm caring for somebody else, my needs have to go to the back burner.
right,
Whereas it's like
right.
this place of like equity and equality on both ends. That is so
Absolutely,
important.
absolutely. And I think, in all honesty, I'm a better everything else when I'm a better person to me. So I'm a
Hmm.
better mom, I'm a better therapist, I'm a better activist, I'm a better friend when I'm taking care of me. Because when my cup is empty and I crash, I disappear.
Yes,
And
yes.
so then I'm not doing any of the things.
Yeah. It kind of goes back to the age old analogy of like on a plane, right? If there happens to be a
Absolutely.
crisis, the first thing that you need to do is put the mask on yourself in order to be able to save those that are in your row. And so
Right.
definitely applying that same mindset to other areas of your life, whether it's inside the home or outside of the home.
Right. And let's be honest, every time we see that video on a plane, the other person is awake. So maybe we need to give people a second to figure out how to put their mask on, instead of assuming it's always got to be us to sacrifice and put their mask on for them. Maybe you learn how to put your mask on by me modeling. You see me putting this to my face and pulling this band around my head. You do the same thing too. Because we don't always, because sometimes we're enabling to the point of detriment. The other
Mm-hmm.
person isn't incapable of taking care of themselves. They might need someone to walk alongside them. They might need someone to support them, but they can do it. They just don't want to do it by themselves. And so if we can just say, this is how I'm doing it, would you like to do it with me? Then they're empowered in the process.
Oh, I love it. Courtney, let the people know where they can find you on all platforms. Actually, I want to pause really quickly because you have a program called A Safe Haven for Healers. And can you talk a
Hmm.
little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So I am partnered with me and four other amazing therapists, Black therapists. We are partnered with the On-Site Foundation, which is this amazing foundation that helps put several like free programs together. You should check them out. I'm pretty sure it's at On-Site Foundation on IG. But they gave us a grant to create a 6-week virtual Black therapist support group and kind of training that we're putting on right now. And so we have about 50 individuals over 5 groups. And we get together every week and we just talk about how to take care of ourselves and teach, different experiential therapy techniques along the way. This is our second time doing it. We were able to do it last year, right after everything with George Floyd as well. So it's been such a gift and an honor to participate in that. And we hope to do it again in the second half of the year. And
Yes.
it's
So
free.
for
It's free to the therapist.
So for any healer that is interested, please head over to that website. The only reason why I know is because I'm currently on the waiting list right now. And so I'm just like super excited for that. And speaking of which, and like how healers take care of themselves, how do you personally take care of yourself? And what nugget would you like to leave for individuals who are starting their wellness journey?
Yeah, so I try to make sure I'm hitting all the different types of self-care. So am I connected to people that I love and who are safe and pour into me? So I try to have that social connection. Physically, how did I move my body today? Did I dance? Did I walk? Did I exercise? What did I do for my physical? Mentally and emotionally, I'm in therapy for myself. I reality test with my friends. I journal. I read. I do meditation, all the like things that, we just have to do consistently.
Yeah.
And then I also say no. One of my main forms of self-care is saying no and having boundaries and recognizing not only do I need to say no, but no is a complete sentence. I don't owe you an explanation to my no. My no is sufficient. Once I start getting into explaining, I'm in my child self, I'm not in my adult self, and I'm trying to get your approval. I don't need your approval to take care of me. And so getting really, really clear about what I can and cannot do and what I will and will not do, and telling people no so that they aren't expecting more of me than I have to give.
Yes. Yes. We can go on and on about that part. Being clear
Right.
about what you can and cannot do.
Yes.
Yes. That's like the
And what you
foundation
will
for
and will not do. Because
yes.
sometimes there are things you can do, but you shouldn't because you don't have nothing left, or it's not your business, or it's not your problem. And so sometimes I will not do it, even though
Mm-hmm.
I could, because it's not for me to carry.
Exactly. That's not your burden to bear.
Not, yep, yep,
Period.
period.
Oh, Courtney, thank you so much for this conversation. It has simply been
Absolutely.
amazing. Can you please let the people know where they can find you and how they connect with you?
Absolutely. So my Instagram is at Courtney Leak LCSW. I'm also on Facebook, and my website is the same. It's www.courtneyleaklcsw.com.
Love it. Once again, y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in for Therapy Thursdays. And please stay tuned for every Thursday evening. And once again, thank you, Courtney, for your
Thank
time.
you for having me. It was so fun.
Yay. All right. Good night.
Good night, everybody.